Hi everyone, welcome to episode 106 of Bucs UK TV. Tim, Phil and Tom are joining me. Halloween came early in the Raymond James Stadium. I told you I'd steal that line, that wasn't me, I can't take credit for that. And it was not pretty, was it, Tom?
No, not at all. It was kind of the Bucs of old to some extent, beating ourselves, penalties all over the place, costing us. Turning the ball over, but then not really doing much with it. So yeah, it was very, very frustrating. Yeah.
Tim, however, glass half full. I mean, until about 37 seconds, we still had a chance. How did we manage that?
Turnovers to start with was probably the bit that kept us in it, because otherwise the game would have been well and gone. We'll probably come on to Winfield's play later. That actually kept the score a lot closer than it should have been. But we're a below average football team. We really are.
Well, at the mention of Winfield, let's flip it around. Let's start with defense, because I feel like that was probably where we had our most traction, Phil. Give me a report grade for the defense.
C-.
And on what basis?
Well, I watched the first Ritter. I don't rate him as a quarterback at all, but I think he got the ball, threw it long, and there was his London caught it, and I thought that was like last week, and it seems to me that it seems to be over and over again. We seem to be going. The other teams. I looked like this. We set off 3-1, and we surprised everybody. People get to see the film, and then they do their game plan about what our weaknesses are. But we don't seem to do anything to solve these problems, because it just looked like against the Lions at first, throwing the ball long, caught it, off we went. We're susceptible to the long ball all the time, and be quite honest, we didn't really get to him last night a bit, and I just thought it was a poor show all around. But
yeah, I mean, I want to agree with you. I want to say Ridder was absolutely useless, but you've got the stats open. 19 completions of 25 attempts for 250 yards. I mean, he's the one throwing the ball. That's not too shabby. I mean, Tom, do you think go on, Tim?
No, it's not too shabby, but when you look at his body of work before that, in the last season and a bit he's played, he again isn't brilliant, but yet we make these backup or lower level quarterbacks look really good. And the main part of that was I looked at where was the pressure last night?
There wasn't.
And we'll talk about the defensive backs getting beaten and so on. But if we've got no pressure up front, they can't cover for 20 minutes waiting for somebody to get to him.
I think they notice as well that if the pressure doesn't get there quickly and they get the ball out fairly quickly, our secondary and our linebackers are leaving massive holes and they were just picking us off. And it was Kyle Pitts, it was Drake London, and Scotty Miller with a big one as well. But they just seemed to realise that they were going to have a bit of time before the pressure got there, and they could just pick their moments, pick their players, and go and drive up the field fairly easily, really. Other than if Winfield sort of did something about it.
You could probably argue, in fact, the difference between the two teams was the protection, because they blitzed and we couldn't pick it up, and we blitzed and they could pick it up. And that was probably, dare I say it, the difference between two very average-looking teams. Obviously, on the ground, we were expecting Bijan Robinson to be the main rushing threat. The Falcons managed 156 yards on the ground. Actually, most of that, it felt like it was Desmond Ridder and a little bit of Corradell Patterson. But again, rushing defense, Tom, that's what we come to expect of the Bucs. Solid rushing defense, but that seemed to give up a little bit as well.
We had problems with Patterson before as well, haven't we? He's one of those players we just seem to. I think his position this year, I think he's on their depth chart as a J for Joker, because he can play so many different roles. And it was a bit like every single time they handed the ball off to him, we didn't really know what to do with him. And I think we've had problems with rushing quarterbacks in the past. I remember Daniel Jones I think it was his first season for the Giants, causing us all sorts of issues, and then beating us in a similar sort of game. And Ridder last night just kept getting out of the pocket, running through us. We just seem to have massive issues with that sort of thing.
Tim, you mentioned.
sorry, Kieron, I think we got some injury issues up front. I think Villa is injured more than what we believe. And unfortunately, Kansas, you didn't hear his name last night. Greg Gaines looks totally out of his depth in this Bucs defense. He's a decent player in LA. He looks lost in this defense.
I mean, Will Golston's still going, isn't he? But he probably shouldn't be.
No, he's if there's somebody on his last legs or playing a long time in the trenches, it's him. And you can't rely on people like that. We're just not good enough up front at this moment. We lost the trenches again.
And Tim, you mentioned Winfield in terms of the back. I mean, obviously Tom was saying, if you're going to blitz and you're not going to get there, your secondary is going to be, on an island, struggling man with holes somewhere.
Yeah, all the time. Winfield is probably proving this year the best safety in the league on a very, very poor team. His play to take the ball from Ridder kept us in the game. He had no right to make that play. And if Ridder looks at that looking back, he'll think, I should have scored there. But Winfield, fair play to the guy, that was just hustle.
Yeah, there were several times where we looked like we were out for the count, but the Falcons just couldn't manage that knockout blow. Although, as you said, Scotty Miller for 46 yards was a bit of a punch to the gut.
I say Winfield, he broke up a touchdown as well. Past the he's one of those players. I think next off season, him and Wirfs are probably going to be able to demand whatever they want at the moment because they're so important for us.
Demand or unfortunately leave.
Hopefully not.
Obviously, don't want that to happen.
Don't you think that's the most frustrating part about all of this? Because we signed all some, Izzian and one or two more, and they're good players. They've done well. And I honestly believe, I was looking through the chart today, I thought, I don't think we're that bad a team. But I just can't put my finger on what's going wrong. I really can't. It just doesn't seem like the team that was playing in the first 4 weeks of the season. It's just,
Phil, under the Brady years, remember those? You were always a big fan about Brady's intangibles, weren't you? You said that he brought a winning attitude, and actually that was worth as much as the player themselves. Is it an attitude thing we're missing? Because, like you say, man for man, we've got a good squad. It's not a bad squad.
No, I don't think it's that. I think when that winning attitude that Brady brought, I don't think it's really gone away or totally gone away. But when you put performances in like that, and I think I can't wait till we talk about offense because I think we're all going to say the same thing.
Well, let's not get there just yet because I've got one last question for Tom. So it's not the players potentially question mark. It's not the attitude potentially question mark. Is it therefore the coach or coaches question mark?
Very possibly. I think we've all had our feelings about Bowles in the past, whether he's the right man. I don't know. I think he's got to be given this season. I don't think it's a rebuild no matter what. In some ways, losing Brady and having to change the quarterback. I think Baker has taken us by surprise, has done quite well. I think there's some people were expecting us to maybe not win a game with Baker quarterback. So I think there's a bit of time for him to prove the doubters wrong, but I think there's got to be some questions. And I think Canales at the moment is whether things have actually changed. It looks lower last night anyway, looked very left witchy.
The clock is ticking, and like you said, plenty of people had the bye week sort of ringed in their calendar as the time when we may have seen whoever won the quarterback battle give way to whoever didn't win the quarterback battle. Stick with Canales though in terms of the offense, because I think the one thing that we've all been banging our head against the brick wall is that run up the gut, isn't it?
Yeah, if I can say what I looked at on Sunday was, we've gone back a season. The first plays, if you look at our interior offensive line, there is no drive off that ball at all, none at all. Their first step, we make no impression. So I know we can blame Rashad White, Keyshawn Vaughn, who I'm not a fan of. We can blame all those guys, but unless you physically move the man backwards slightly, you're not going to run the ball. People have been talking Derrick Henry and all that. I wouldn't fancy Derrick Henry's chances behind the way this line run blocks at this moment.
I mean, Baker Mayfield had that fantastic run for about 30 yards, which got us all into that false hope of believing that something could actually happen. If you take that off, the Bucs yesterday were 2 yards a carry, and that's just, professional negligence, isn't it?
Yeah, but just hang on a bit though. At the end of the day, if you've got an offensive line, it's like all yesterday's with the offensive line yesterday. I mean, I just thought they were absolutely hopeless. Honestly, it was just like watching. It just reminded me of the Jameis Winston days when Jameis Winston was running for his life, and that run of Baker Mayfield. That's what he was doing. He was running for his life. They were getting at him. I mean, I think the first play, 2 of them come straight through the middle, and nobody even touched them.
So if you watch the highlights package as well, there's players running free pretty much every play. There's someone coming from somewhere, and they're going to get to Baker unless he manoeuvred his way out of it.
And again, without going back to the glory days, obviously Brady did get us the Super Bowl. We know we've got to pay our penance for that. But one thing about having Gronk around was that in those scenarios, Gronk would come in and block or would chip a little bit. But it doesn't feel like with Otton or any of the other tight end stable that we've really got anyone coming in and blocking. Whether we've got a single back, so we've got 5 offensive linemen, which means, work it out, guys, there's only ever going to be 6 blockers. And if you get the running back on the wrong side of the field, you've only got half a line to overcome. So, I mean, we've got to try and scheme something. Tim, I mean, in terms of the run game, there was a lot of debate by the commentators last night about it's really important to stick with the run game. But if our only success is in the air, what should we do?
We should try some variations. I'll go back to the first couple of games, probably the first game of the season. We saw jet sweeps, everything coming into the game. All of those types of plays now have gone, and we've gone back to our stock playbook. Run straight up the gut and so on. The only thing we can do out of this, the problem is when you want to throw the ball all day, the only thing that will keep them honest is a bit of play action, but they don't respect the run. So all they're going to be doing is playing the pass all day, knowing we can't run the ball for more than 2 or 3 yards. So air it out all you want. But until we get our running game even remotely working, that passing game is going to really struggle.
I mean, you read all the comments today, Rashard White's not good enough. And I agree with you, Tim. You can get whoever you want behind that offensive line, to be no good. Because they just don't make holes. And then you've got your quarterback. And I will say, Brady would have given up by now if he'd have been here with that offense. He'd have just said, I'm off, see you lads. Because, I mean, and Baker Mayfield he scrambles well, and I still think he's doing a good job, but unfortunately, and also I want to bring this up as well. There was the missed catches as well again. Vaughan should have caught one if I remember, and Durham should have caught one, which you believe in, and I think Evans missed one, although I can't really knock him too much. And again,
interesting, Evans missed 2. I've got the stats up me. Obviously, what's a target and what's not a target for an NFL statistician varies. But Godwin targeted 12 times, but only 6 catches.
Yeah, but I think I can think of 2 or 3. There are 2 long ones where Baker needs to reel it in a bit. He overthrows a bit too much, and if he can reel that in, I think we'd do a whole lot better. But I still think about the offensive line. If you're running for your life, how can you throw the ball?
Yeah. So Tom, you mentioned Canales as being this sort of wonderful wizard, and we're regressing a little bit in what we're expecting. What should we be seeing from Canales, do you think, at this point? Because he's very active on social media. He's always kind of glass half full and quite popular still. But
I think what we were seeing in the opening weeks was what we kind of hoped to be seeing almost more of now, where it was, they was just kind of very much, especially when we've had a bit of time to scheme and to draw things up recently, you think we'd be looking more like we did in week 1 with the jet streams and things like that. But it seems to have just gone back to, okay, we're going to run just for the sake of running, and then we'll go back to what we want to do in the first place. Whereas, I just think we need to be, if we can get Rashard White out in the open a bit more, he's got the speeds to be able to run the ball. We've seen it in previous seasons when he has got space. He can find gaps. He's a fine running back. He's not the best, but he's fine. So yeah, I think we just need to be drawing things up a bit different, like we were in the first couple of weeks, really.
Do you know what somebody took for me last night? This is what somebody took for me. That when we had a penalty, and the ref called, everybody moved but one. I thought, well, that just sum it up. I thought, oh, dear.
There was one of the drives very early on where we went for it on 4th and 6, just inside their half. We weren't quite in field goal range. It felt like a bit of a waste to punt it. Tim, do you think, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20. We didn't make it. I was quite pleased we went for that.
I was surprised we went for it because that was actually the first drive of the game. And I thought, yeah, we're at midfield. I think we've got one of the top 2 or 3 punters in the league. I would have dropped that down on work on your number 7, number 8 defense in the league, holding them back down against a Desmond Ridder-led team. But hey, if we got it, we would all been shouting and screaming at it. So it's easy to second guess him for that. But personally, that early in the game, I would have punted because this was the statement game to say who currently is the best team in the NFC South, and we didn't look like it at all.
Because I go back. I've said this, been banging on about this for a long time. Jason Lights goes back to the wall. We've got no money, and he's sort of pulled. We've seen to a half decent team. Special teams is looking like. Tompkins is looking like a good player, and we've got. And like Tim said, we've got one of the best punters in the league, and the kicking game's good, and he's done a good job with free agents, and I think we were a half decent team, but it all goes back to the offensive line. If they can't stop them, we can't. The quarterbacks hasn't got the time, then we've got no chance. It's got to be sorted out. That has.
So, do you look at wholesale changes? Do you look to change the guards who were especially struggling in the centre? Do you get Nick Leverett and people like that back into the starting lineup and see if it does improve?
We've got to do
Aaron
something.
Stinney's got more snaps than Fella or so, but it's just they've stolen the star side.
It's a tough one because none of them you would think would be quality NFL starters who will come in anyway.
But aside from yesterday with 3 sacks allowed, I think the pass blocking's been pretty damn good, above average.
Yes.
So we just need to accept that they're good at pass blocking and not good at run blocking. So what do you do with that? I think you need to. So draw plays, for example. As much as a depressing, when a draw play goes wrong, you come back, you give the running back the ball, and he falls over, and you've got a 5-yard loss. But your whole line are coming back like they're going into pass pro, and then the defense tee off of that. That's going to be the blocking that they excel at. Trying to get them to move someone or make a hole clearly is not where they excel.
It's a real good point, Kieron. But what you mentioned there was variation, and it's a thing we've gone away from over the last couple of weeks.
I mean, like you said, the rocket screens. I can't remember the last time we did like an outside toss or a pitch or something.
The thing is, we have like Tompkins and players like that who have got that in their locker. Tompkins is fast, he's small, so he can kind of he's the type of player who we could make use of in that way, the same way that the Chiefs have done with Mecole Hardman and probably will do now they got him back. It's just what it is. It's a frustration. It has been of ours for a few years now.
I think was it Phil Bushby on the forum who was saying, bring both Baker and Trask on, put them in the Wildcat, and no one's going to know who's going to get the snap. Given that Baker Mayfield's our best running back. I thought that was quite good. Really a true word spoken in jest, Mr. Bushby. So I guess, obviously, we've talked about the implications of all of this. I mean, how serious, Tom, is this for the Bucs playoff hopes? It's fairly early in the year still. We shouldn't put a stick in it yet.
I think it's serious. We lost the division game, but there's enough time for us to turn that around. I think the division as a whole is still weak, and we're in with a chance. We can still win this div easily, but we can't be making errors like we were yesterday. We can't be giving away as many penalties as we were. If we give away as many penalties as we were yesterday again, we are just going to beat ourselves, because that's been something we haven't really done recently. So, yeah, I think it's going to be important. Obviously, losing the division game, but I think we've got enough games to come that we can still win this division.
Phil, do you agree? Because I think Carolina. We all thought the Falcons were going to be the whipping boys of the NFC South. Turns out it's probably going to be Carolina.
Yeah. I think it's got to be some serious changes they've got to have a different, because I can see them going back into the conservative playbook now. We've lost the last couple of games, and I agree with what Tim says. We've got to break it out, surprise teams, or do something, because last night it was so dispiriting, it was untrue. And if we don't, we won't win that. We won't win the division at all. Just
but Tim, final word goes to you, Tim. There was Mr. Glass half empty. On balance of probabilities, do the Bucs make the playoffs?
Balance of probability, no.
Oh, okay. I take it back. I thought it would give me something good then.
No, I would love to. Yes, can they win the division? Absolutely. Is it a very weak division? Yes, it is. But we've got some tough games again. We've got a Buffalo now. That is not the confidence builder you need.
We'll be talking about that in the next episode. So
yeah.
funny to say that.
Yeah, can they win the division? Absolutely.
Let me ask you a question. Sorry.
Go on, Phil.
Go on, Kieron. Let me ask you a question. Can you see our coaches coaching a way out of this one?
I think someone needs to put a rocket under them. Now, I must admit, I'm not really sure if Bruce Arians is still in the building or not, but that's the sort of person in that sort of role, that someone that's got the coaching nous and the credibility to walk into a room on a Monday morning meeting and say, do you know what, this is what we need to do? Because Jason Light, that's not his job. It's not the Glazers' jobs. Those are the people they put the people in place and then do it. But you need that sort of that sort of Marty Schottenheimer type sort of wily old coach or someone like to walk in the room and go, come on, guys, you're better than this. Because I think they are better than this. And I don't know whether it's short-sightedness or fear or, whatever it is. Because, for example, coming off the bye week, for example, you would expect us to have healed up a little bit. It was great that Mike Evans was playing. And you'd expected, a few more wrinkles, a few more adjustments. But like others have said on this week, it seems like we've regressed. So I think we just need to go back into that playbook and dial up some different plays. I'm sure the playbook's got it in there. Canales is, what he did with the Seahawks and, the sort of quarterback whispering type things, sort of the ghost of Turk Schnurt is alive and well. It feels like, we've got it in them. Wouldn't you say, Tom?
Yeah. I think the good thing is, the players seem to support the coaches. Everything that comes out, the players know they have to do, they're media trained and all that. But Devin White seemed very unsettled at the beginning of the season. After the Saints game, he couldn't have talked higher about Todd Bowles and the coaches. So I think the players want to play for these coaches. Now they've got to actually turn it on for them, and probably have to look at players like Winfield, who are stepping up another level, and all do the same, because players like Devin White yesterday just wasn't good enough. I
think that's a really good point. I think we've seen in the past, in about a decade or so ago, what it looks like when the Bucs players give up and they're not wanting to play for a coach, and that really is ugly. And we're not in that spectrum. The fact that we can play subpar and still be in it with 30 seconds left in the game, I think is a good sign. And any given Sunday, or any given Thursday, which reminds us, that's the next game, and you need to join us shortly. Because it's a short week, so the episode will be out soon, and we'll be talking all about that. So thank you, Tim. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Tom. As ever, thank you guys for watching. If you wish to vent in the comments box, consider it group therapy. That's exactly why we have our forum online where we chat during the game. Group therapy is what we're all about. Until next time, though, thank you, and go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.